and welcome to episode 2 of the Getting to This Place podcast with Reeya Banerjee and Luke Folger here. Reeya has a new album, This Place, coming out. If you listened to the first episode, we gave you the background on how we got here with her previous records. And now what we're going to do is a deep dive into this album, This Place, song by song, starting at the top. So the first song on the record is called Picture Perfect. Start with Luke, actually. Tell me how you got involved in this particular song, and I want to talk about the collaboration that you guys have in terms of deciding on how these things are done, and also maybe even a little about how the sequence of the album came about.
Yeah, well, this record is a sort of chronological. It follows all these different places that Reeya has lived in her life. And each one has, we tried to narrow down on the essence of each place, and often that was with a story between two people, just trying to get as specific as possible, as opposed to saying here's a song about San Francisco, there's a bridge there, it's foggy. We wanted to talk about the core emotion for each spot. So with Picture Perfect, this is an early childhood song, and in our conversations back and forth, we were just thinking a lot about this safe, innocent place of childhood, and we're also talking a lot about how you reflect back on your own memory of it, and it changes throughout time, and you make this kind of you frame it, like a picture, and you look back on it, and it fades, and your relationship with that picture changes. So, and in terms of the music, I had a whole bunch of different instrumental ideas, and then we mapped out all of our songs, and then we actually just kind of drew lines. We're this song has kind of a cool mood for this location, and this instrumental idea has a cool idea for this location. So we matched them up, and this one was energetic and also a good album opener, I thought.
Cool. And Reeya, you, Luke had just alluded to the fact that this was sort of about the innocence of childhood. Thinking back to what you had said in the previous episode about moving around so much, and even in your adult life, moving, from the Hudson Valley further upstate, moving, briefly to Tennessee, moving back to New Jersey. When I see a line like "There is space for us, there is space for love," really move around, and it's picture perfect. That almost feels like it could apply to your adulthood as well as your childhood at this point.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that line is speaking from the point of view of the adult looking back. But in terms of, the lyric and the story of the song, so I was born in Washington, D.C. I lived there for the first 6 years of my life. I think I said this to Luke, that when I think back on that period of life, of my life, it's just, like he said, innocence. It was a lot of, we lived in Silver Spring, Maryland. There was a playground right behind our house, and it was the day of, well, I was young, so it's not like they gave me a key, but it was that kind of latchkey kid era. And I could just, my parents were like, hey, the playground's right there, if you want to go play, go there, and there's plenty of kids around, there are adults nearby in the neighborhood, and it was safe. There was no stranger danger kind of concerns or anything like that. There's a core memories, my grandparents coming to visit us when we lived there, and my grandfather, who passed away when I was about 7 or 8, and I have this memory. I think we might even have a home video of it in my dad's house somewhere, of my grandfather. I was on a swing in the playground, and he was pushing me, and I just remember, just laughing and saying, "Hey, higher, higher," and he was like, "Okay, okay," and he might not have been pushing me any higher, but in my kid 4-year-old brain, that's what it was. And then, so much has happened in my life since then. When I was 4, we were still living there. My mother was diagnosed with cancer, and that was kind of the beginning of an 8-year struggle, in dealing with that. And so, I told Luke specifically, I was like, sometimes when I look back on that period of my life, it almost feels like a story I'm telling myself. I don't know if I really remember it anymore. It's more like I've seen photographs of that time. I, remember my grandfather on the swing and stuff like that, but I just, I don't know if it's a real memory at this point, or if it's just, oh yeah, I know that happened, and I have these flickering images in my head. And that was, I think, that's in the lyric of the song, just the images in your head and, kind of flickering through. And it was picture perfect, but, I don't even know if I really am remembering it or if I'm remembering a memory of it. And then there's a line at the end, which, I don't know if you kind of picked up on that, Mark, where it says, we jump ahead to today. I hear you say we should have never left that place. There's a period of time, many, many years later. I was probably I was in high school, just chatting with my dad, and he was in kind of a morose mood, as was I. We share that in common. And he was we were just kind of reminiscing about stuff. He was just remembering that time period, which maybe he has clearer memories of than I do. And he had this moment where he was like, maybe we should have never left Washington, D.C. Maybe we shouldn't, maybe we should have stayed. Maybe if we'd stayed, he's like that. We were happiest there. When I think about it, that's where we were happiest. And that was, my dad is Mr. King of the Bay Area. He still is. He lives in Berkeley. He's I think if I asked him now how he feels about having said that, he might even say, I don't think I said that. But that was an interesting thing to hear him say. And kind of just, again, speaks to this idea of even he has this maybe picture perfect memory of what that was like.
So what's interesting to me here is that the picture perfect, which is a phrase that everybody uses to describe this sort of idyllic existence, it really, there's layers beneath that maybe aren't so picture perfect, and yet you use the phrase unironically. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it's a good album starter. It's a great way to kick it off and kind of bring people into your journey. So let's leave that one there, and we'll pick up on the next episode with the next song on the record. Cool. And thanks for all of you listening. Thanks, Luke, and thanks, Reeya. We'll see you next time.